A new thriller of deception, betrayal, and vengeance comes from New York Times bestselling author Daniel Silva. He joins me now to discuss the release of his latest novel. And we are so excited to talk with you today, The New Girl. And we're so happy to see that our favorite spy, Gabriel, still going strong. 19 novels. What's he up to in The New Girl?
Well, in The New Girl, he undertakes sort of one of his most politically sensitive missions yet. He reluctantly agrees to find the kidnapped daughter of a man named Khalid bin Mohammed, the much maligned crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, the kidnappers aren't interested in money. What they want is for Khalid to abdicate his claim on the throne of Saudi Arabia so that someone else can be the next king of Saudi Arabia. And it's not someone that we want to be the king of Saudi Arabia, let's put it that way. And so the book obviously deals with our future relations with Saudi Arabia and also the rise of Russia as a real power in the Middle East.
So, Daniel, when I first started to dig into the book and I read the book cover, I said, oh my goodness, this all sounds very familiar. And there's a story behind this story because you were going along writing and then all of a sudden the events that took place in October of 2018 when you had the death of the journalist, that changed the course of this story. Right.
You know, I guess ultimately The New Girl is not the book that I set out to write, certainly, and it's not the book that I wanted to write. But you know, when Jamal Khashoggi, the contributing columnist of the Washington Post, was so brutally murdered in Istanbul, what I had written, how I had characterized even my fictitious Saudi crown prince, it just wasn't applicable anymore. It didn't stand up to the new reality, and I had to take about 250 pages of copy and drop it in the trash can and start over. And this is October 15th. So I wrote this book in about 3.5 or 4 months, the first draft.
So when we talk about your fictitious Saudi prince versus MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, we see some distinct similarities, but also some distinct differences. What are those differences?
Without question. I mean, my Khalid bin Mohammed, as he is known, is Oxford educated, very Western oriented, speaks the King's English, really is a reformer. And without getting into too much plot detail and spoiling anything, there is a journalist who's murdered in my novel, a man named Omar Nawaf, but the circumstances surrounding his death are very, very different than what happened in the case of Jamal Khashoggi. And, you know, the killing of Khashoggi was just so blatant and reckless that for a while I was wondering whether there might be something more to it than what we were being told. And after talking to a lot of people in intelligence and politics in Washington and Congress who are, you know, getting things from the CIA, I've really concluded that it was just an act of just pure vengeance and recklessness on the part of MBS. And it turned him from one of the most compelling and celebrated people in the world to, you know, a global villain overnight.
What do some
it's a tragedy.
It is. And what do some of those sources that you mentioned, what do they tell you about MBS and why our administration continues to stand by him? Well,
we continue to stand by him because our relationship with Saudi Arabia is incredibly important. And I think that in a perfect world, we would have told the Saudis to find someone else to be their next king. We would have probably issued arrest warrants for all the people involved in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. We would have imposed onerous sanctions and travel ban on senior members of the Saudi government. And it would have probably had disastrous results for our policy in the Middle East. And I think that, bottom line, at this point in time, this relationship is too historic and too important for us to simply cut loose. And I would hope that in the future that we will you know, not just stand by Saudi Arabia and MBS, but that we will help MBS become the reformer that he promised that he was going to be.
Well, Daniel, your books are fascinating. You're fascinating. I wish I could keep talking with you. I know we have to wrap, but thank you so much for joining us, and we are so excited about the new girl. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.